in regards to the health issues, and he says that Jim McIntyre at this point had essentially taken Mindy to hospital, he was taking care of Mindy, who was having health issues at this point. So this was 2020. This is the first time that February 2020, he said this was the first time that we hear of Mindy starting to have health issues. He says that Jim had told him that he had signed up for Medicaid in 2020 as well, and he says that he moved to Beaufort for 8 months. This is likely when Frank and those guys came into the picture, but I'll continue. But anyway, he moved to Beaufort for 8 months. All of this because he was fearful for his life. Continuing on, he says that in April 2020, that Cameron had messaged him saying that she was not going to continue paying him, and this was when he learned that Jim McIntyre. You know what? Let's just go straight to the testimony, because my jaw dropped at this moment. It just, and I will explain why my jaw dropped at this moment.
Mid to late February of 2021.
Where did you stay in Beaufort?
Again, we moved regularly, probably another 15 to 20 places there.
And how did you procure those places to reside?
Mr. McIntyre procured those places.
Okay.
Now at this time we had learned that Miss Nelson was paying for those places.
How did you learn that?
In April, so 2020 was the COVID year. In April she had sent.
She is who?
Cameron Nelson had sent Mindy and I a message saying that because her husband runs restaurants, and at the time it looked like all restaurants might be shutting down for the foreseeable future, that she would not be able to keep paying for our rentals if things did not change quickly.
Did you learn at that time exactly how much money she had lent you up to this point?
I had not, no. I was livid. It was at this time that we learned that Mr. McIntyre was not a federal agent.
How did you learn that?
I had a conversation with him as to why this was, why he was charging a friend of mine's card. Why wasn't there, either coming from our own money or some sort of official fund. Why this was happening. And I made some reference to wanting to speak to his superior, and he said, Nick, I'm not an FBI agent. Why would you think that?
Did you continue to maintain your relationship with him after you found out about this?
We did, after following, probably the worst argument that Mindy and I ever had.
What was that argument about?
He moved us in the days after that to a rental that we were not happy with. At this point, we were living with Mindy's father and mother, Betsy and Frank III, as well as Matthew, the youngest brother. He had moved us to a rental that we were not happy with, but for the first time, we actually had a rental agreement that showed how long the rental had been paid for. It was a different company than I think that they were normally procured through. So for the first time, we knew that we had, I forget if it was a week or a week and a half, and I said this is, we shouldn't be dealing with this anymore. Like we have a week or a week and a half. We've got to figure out a plan. We've got to, cut ties with Jim. Like I feel like I've been lied to for years.
But you didn't cut ties with Jim, correct?
We did not. No, Mindy felt that Jim was our, our angel. She said, he had made mistakes, but we would be in the position to fix all those mistakes. And if we stopped working together, then who knows, if his resolve to see this end in our favor was going to go away. What would we be doing in the meantime? Actually, she when I said, I think we can figure this out, but she got out of our truck and walked all the way to her brother's house. It was like 5 or 6 miles.
So he finds out that Nick is not an FBI agent. Yet Mindy says that he's made mistakes, but we should continue being with him, despite him not being an FBI agent, by the way. How do you say that he's not an FBI agent and continue to just say that he's an FBI agent? Like, basically give the idea that he's an FBI agent, but let's just continue on. Let's just continue on, because I think that this moment was the moment that is just, if you really believe that Jim exists, it's probably dead at this point. It's gone. It's gone. Like, there's no way that you would think that Jim was behind all of this. There is no way, because he's the FBI agent. He's the one that set you up with APIS. He says that he's an APIS employee. He didn't really say that, because I've said that in previous streams that Jim is just likely an APIS employee. And the streams was based on his interview with the police that Jim was an APIS employee. He gave that interview on the 12th of May, that he was an APIS employee, that he was the one that got him the job there, that he was an APIS employee. Now he says that I'm not an FBI agent. So that story that he gave to law enforcement now, I mean, it now has a bit of life, but it's just, he's like, so if I was to believe him for the truth and just take it on as truth, as face value, it seems likely that Jim had told him, I'm not an FBI agent, I'll only work for APIS. Who the FBI agents set you up with? I'm trying. I really, you know what? I'm very sorry, Elaine Bretterhoft, for making fun of you. It must have been really difficult to work with the facts that you had. But anyway, moving on. So he gave a story in regards to Frank IV and how they moved into his home for 16 months. So if we were to accelerate the time, April 2020 was when they had the conversation with Jim. Sometime in April 2020, I believe, you know what, let me not say that, but sometime in April 2020, they had moved for 16 months. So 10, I'm not great at maths, but let's just 12 months would be April 2021. Then 4 months on top of April 2021, you would arrive at, wait, the math is right there, right? 4 plus is 16. So yeah. Anyway, 4 months after April would be April, May, June, July, August. So August 2021, he had moved out, or he was evicted from Frank IV's home. But on the testimony, he says that the eviction actually happened in June 2022. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The months thing is not relevant. He didn't give an exact date and then change the date as it went on. He probably had the wrong estimation. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for that one. They had moved essentially to Yakinto Hotel after that eviction. But let's hear the story in regards to why he was evicted and what was going on at Frank IV's home.
Betsy and Frank III, correct?
Yes.
When did you first live with them?
This would have been April, right around the time of the COVID shutdowns, the first COVID shutdown. So late March, early April of 2020, Frank III had a knee surgery, and he was living with Frank IV at the time, but given that entire house is on 3 levels and the living levels are all a full level up in the air from the garage area, then he was not going to be able to get up those stairs following his surgery and was not going to be able to maneuver around the house following the surgery. So we asked Mr. McIntyre to ensure that we had a 1-level rental that had enough bedrooms, and Frank and Betsy came, and Matthew came as well, I think.
Jim McIntyre is not an FBI agent.
He was a high school kid. I think he kind of enjoyed sleeping somewhere away
Jim McIntyre told him he's not an FBI agent.
from home.
So what was the point where you were living with Frank the Fourth, in Frank the Fourth's home?
That was not until the following February.
Okay. So you leave Beaufort, South Carolina, February of 2021, correct?
Yes.
And then where do you go?
We go to Frank IV's house in Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Okay, key thing. Okay, they did move. That does add up with a timeline. That will be 16 months, 10 months, 12 months. Doing the math again. Moving from February 2021 to Beaufort, to Frank the Fourth's house. Moving from the parents' house. I think you said their parents live. Anyway, moving on and going with his maths, it actually does add up. It actually does add up to June 2022.
How long are you at Frank the Fourth's house?
16 months. We leave in June of 2022.
How much were you paying him to stay there?
We were not paying him to stay there.
Did you feel like a freeloader?
I absolutely did.
Why didn't you pay him any money to stay in his home?
We had no money to pay him.
I thought you have a job with Apis Limited.
Yes, that job, I was told was generating money, but we did not have a bank account at this point. We did not have access to any of these funds. We asked multiple times for Jim to send money to Frank to offset the cost. We understood that there was food, there was dog food, involved in this, but he said he always said he would look into it, and then he would always say, if I do this, it's potential that somebody's going to learn where you are.
Jim is not an FBI agent.
Why did you leave Frank the Fourth's home?
He filed to evict us from the home.
Why did he have to take that step?
I didn't think he had to take the step, but there had been a lot of discussions about when we were leaving. We would be given a date, then the date would pass, and I think he got tired. He got tired of waiting.
When did you eventually leave Frank the Fourth's home?
I believe it was June of 2022.
And where did you go after you left Frank the Fourth? Oh, let me go back to Frank the Fourth's home. Who all was living in Frank the Fourth's home at the time you were living there?
Yeah, it was myself and Mindy. Betsy, Mindy's mom, was living there the entire time we were there, as well as Frank the Fourth and his wife Megan and their daughter Harper, who had been born in late 2020. I think September 2020, if memory serves. At some point, Frank the Third also moved into the house after we had been there maybe 6 to 9 months. I don't remember the exact date. Matthew never lived there. Matthew had finished high school in Dublin, Georgia, and while he visited, multiple times, he then was going to a junior college somewhere in Georgia.
When you left in June of 2022, where did you? Oh, let me go back. At this time, when you were living with Frank the Fourth, again, was there any of this weirdness, strangeness that you described going on then? No, actually, this was the safest place we had felt in some time, both because of Frank the Fourth's background, the security at the house, and the setup of where the house was located. And very briefly, what is Frank the Fourth's background?
He's a police officer.
So I thought that this testimony was really, he was really key. He was really key for his theory, at least for his third-party culprit theory. Even if we got there with broken tires and anything like that, I still think that the fact that he was trying to give the impression that Frank had this pristine house that has so much security that they felt safe there. Wouldn't Jim disappear at this point? Like, let's say that he didn't say that Jim was an FBI agent. Let's just put it all out to the window, giving the benefit of the doubt onto this point. Why is Jim still in the picture when they were at a secure location? Giving him the benefit of the doubt, let's say that it wasn't as secure. He felt safe there, so he probably told Jim, I do feel safe here. Jim was like, okay, cool. don't don't worry, don't worry. Then let me know if anything happens. As it basically goes on. But because he got evicted, essentially Jim comes back into the picture. He got evicted. Bessie paid for the hotel that they were staying at. He also says that the funds took that, they moved into the Airbnb property after Betsy had paid for a less expensive Yakinto hotel. The one thing I noticed in Hoy's testimony is how he would add these extra facts. Hello, Alana. Welcome to the stream. You and I are up very late today. Yeah, it's quite late today. But anyway, one thing I noticed as he gave his testimony in regards to all of this is the fact that he just keeps adding so much fact to try and sell the idea. I mean, but he just goes on a tangent. He goes on a tangent a lot, and this just doesn't. And I gotta applaud Doug at this point. He doesn't try and stop him. He doesn't even try to say, stick to my question, or try and stop him or do anything. Just let him go on and sticks to the questions he has to ask. But there was testimony in regards to the Airbnb that they have moved into, and I thought it was quite interesting, the testimony that he gave describing the property.
I thought you told law enforcement that Jim McIntyre facilitated giving you that money.
He facilitated in that, he made sure that I could get it safely. He also said that he was involved. The original story got picked up by Sony because it went kind of viral. It was featured on a TikTok channel. I don't use TikTok, but it got attention there, and then from there it spread to Twitter. He said that he was working with some I don't know what you would call it, web-based companies that are designed to get attention on certain things.
Now, you said
Jim McIntyre. So let's hear what he says about Jim McIntyre.
Said, Nick, I'm not an FBI agent. Why would you think that?
that you had learned prior to this that actually Cameron's credit card had been used to pay for a lot of your rentals and expenses, correct?
Yes, that's true.
So when you received that $300,000, how much of that did you give to Cameron?
I did not give any of that to Cameron.
And why not?
Because I believed that there was more money coming shortly thereafter, and that this was the money that we were going to both get ourselves settled with and get Mindy's parents settled with.
When did you move in, approximately, when did you move into the Airbnb on East 65th Street?
Late June of 2022. I believe it was the 26th or 27th.
Can you describe that Airbnb?
Yeah, it's a small house, one level. You walk up 2 or 3 steps to get in, and then it enters into a small living space. There's a sofa along that front wall. Sorry, I'll stop gesturing. I know that the record can't pick it up. Directly across from there is a small hallway. In the center of the hallway, there's a bathroom with a shower, and on either ends of that hallway, there are the 2 bedrooms of the house. To your right, there's what appears to be a small extension with another bathroom that contains a bathtub and the washer and dryer. If you continue to your left, it kind of makes an L shape, though if you look at the house from above, it is a rectangle because of those bedrooms. You have your kitchen, a small eating area, and then around that corner, you have another living area with the TV and access to the backyard.
Can you describe the backyard?
Backyard, it was nice. It was fairly large. It had a chain link fence all the way around. There was a large tree. There were neighbors fairly close on either side that we could see, but it was a family on one side and a kind of a construction area on the other side, and then it backed to a lane where they would collect the trash from, and people would sometimes drive down it.
We've seen a lot about a Ford Explorer. When did you purchase that? Ford Explorer.
I purchased that Ford Explorer in late July of 2022.
And where did the funds come from to purchase that Ford Explorer?
From Sony, from that picture contract.
So we know that Jim had helped procure the Sony deal, but the most important part of that testimony is that there is no mention of the cameras that was supposed to be at the Airbnb that he told to law enforcement. So he gave a very, maybe it's just me picking up on all of this stuff, but he gave a very detailed overview of the house and just doesn't mention the cameras. Could work for him in a way that, you know, he just as any human being would miss out some details. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. He says that that Betsy and her husband had been kicked out of Frank's the fourth's house and had moved into the Airbnb with them. He also says that Mindy was terrified to leave the house because Jim had told her that his father was seeing her as an impediment. Let's just watch the testimony.
So Frank would bring her to work and then come home so he would have a car during the day. So I think I would normally hear them leaving and get up. I would bring Rusty outside to the bathroom. I would make coffee and I would start working. I would take a break to take a shower midday, have a bite to eat, and I would continue working until generally 1 or 2 in the morning.
And did you leave the house during that time?
Not
on an average day, would you?
On an average day, I would say no, but as time went on, I did leave the house more. But you know, sometimes I would go out to pick up something that we needed for the house or pick up food. But on an average day, especially when we first got there, we had everything delivered, and I would go out very little.
And what about Mindy? What did you observe about her average day?
On her average day, she would not leave the house at all.
Why not?
She was terrified that she would be killed if she did.
Why was she terrified she would be killed? Do you know why she was terrified she would be killed?
Jim told her that well, he felt that at this point my family was going to wanted to get me back in the fold, so to speak. He said that's why I hadn't been killed in Charlottesville when I was assaulted. But he said that they viewed Mindy as an impediment and that they would have killed her had they had the chance.
But you left the house.
I left the house.
Weren't you terrified to leave the house?
I was always terrified to leave the house. But I believed Mindy to be pregnant throughout this, and you know, I don't know. It was my job.
Well, let's talk about that. Why did you believe Mindy to be pregnant?
Mindy told me that she was pregnant.
When did she tell you she was pregnant?
We were still at Frank and Megan's when she said she had taken a pregnancy test and that it was positive.
Did you see the test?
I don't know if I saw that test. I'd seen a test before, but I may have, I may not have. I just don't remember.
Had she ever previously been pregnant?
She had, roughly a year before, July of 2021. We had lost a baby.
Oh, the dad, man, my heart breaks because he's just like, what? Oh. But I'll be honest, that's what kind of, I don't know who would go to this extent without motive, just to kill his second wife after leaving his first. He didn't kill his first, by the way. He left his first. He knows how to leave. But forget that. Just forget that. Why would he distance himself from his parents? Like, how do you hatch a plan like that? And go ahead and distance yourself when the parents say that you guys are adopted, all those things. Did he just have a random psychosis one day or something like that? I have no idea.